Welcome back to the Eclectic Collection. Today we have episode 54, Unusual Diseases. This is just interesting stuff to me, and I hope you find it as interesting. So these are just different things that I didn't even know were possible in some cases, and some I had heard of, but I really thought they were more like folklore, but it turns out that they're true, and they're actual medical situations that can happen. So the first one I find kind of amusing is auto-brewery syndrome. So this is a situation where people can get drunk on normal food because they grow a certain type of fungus in their small intestine. So they actually seem as if they've been drinking alcohol, consuming alcohol too much, but it's really just from food. And autobrewery syndrome is also known as gut fermentation syndrome. That just sounds so much worse. And it is a very strange medical condition where a person just experiences intoxication. But it's funny because it is from alcohol, but not alcohol to straight consumption. It's just the abnormal production of different fermented fungi in their guts, in the small intestines. And it's an overgrowth that can be caused by specific types of fungus. So it produces alcohol out of regular food, especially anything that's a drink, just plain old drink containing any kind of carbohydrate, yeast, or bacteria. And they live in that part of the body, and it thrives to make them appear drunk. So it's kind of weird because they could actually take a breathalyzer and come up loaded, but the truth is they're not actually drunk from conventional means of drinking alcohol. So that's pretty cool, in my opinion. Maybe not cool to the people that have it, but I just didn't know that existed. Second one is walking corpse syndrome. So this is where somebody thinks that they're dead or is missing a soul. And sometimes they think that they're immortal. So, wow to that. Walking corpse syndrome can also be called Cotard's syndrome. It's a neuropsychiatric disorder that's related to depression. And the syndrome makes people believe that they're either dead or they're missing their soul, or they could be missing body parts, blood, organs, or specific pieces of their innards. It is usually a symptom of another psychiatric condition rather than a disease on its own. And it can be, it has a lot of symptoms, and they include becoming speechless, having delusions of immortality, attempting self-harm. They might stop speaking altogether because they think that no one listens to them or can hear them because they're dead. They think that about dying or death or that they no longer exist. They have some insensitivity to pain, which is really unique and interesting because they physically have the insensitivity to pain, even though you could potentially say poke them with a pin or something, but they would still, technically their nerves are alive to feel it, but they're not actually feeling it. They sometimes refuse to eat as a part of their delusion, thinking that they're dead. They could get very sad, just severe melancholy and depression, and sometimes they hear voices saying that they're dead or dying. The third interesting find that I came upon is foreign accent syndrome. I find this particularly interesting since obviously I've spent years in playing around with languages. So basically people start speaking in a foreign accent, and it stems from damage to the part of the brain that's associated with speech. Now, having studied linguistics, there's a Broca's area and a Wernicke's area in your brain that deals with speech and speech patterns. And this will happen when a person, they might suddenly wake up and just start speaking in a different accent. It's commonly caused by trauma to the brain, a tumor, strokes, and other neurological conditions can cause it. I jokingly reference when Buzz Lightyear gets woken up in Spanish mode, but it's almost that quick. All of a sudden, they would have the capacity to do the grammar and speech and know the vocabulary in the other language, but it's not something that they necessarily know or would speak. So it's quite a unique disease. The fourth one is congenital insensitivity to pain. So this is where patients cannot feel pain, and it can be extremely dangerous because they really believe that they're not actually feeling harm to themselves, but obviously they could be damaging tissues and cells and nerves irreparably. And it generally is present from birth, and it inhibits the ability to perceive physical pain. It's a mutation in certain genes, particularly in the autosomal recessive pattern, which is basically the two inherited gene mutations, one from each parent. It's very rare, and it's extremely strange to get. But again, if I'm referencing something that made kind of an example of it in a positive way, M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable, where the Samuel L. Jackson character was like Mr. Glass, and he had the disease where his bones break constantly. The Bruce Willis character was sort of that guardian, that savior, and he was unable to really feel pain or be overwhelmed. The only thing he had like an Achilles heel was water, which that just is a fictional part of the story. But there are people that are born with no receptivity or sensitivity to pain, which again could be dangerous. If you got cut or something, you're bleeding and you don't know it, just because you don't feel it, which is kind of cool. I mean, if I had a superpower, that would be great, but you're not able to necessarily respond if you don't know that you're in pain because you don't feel it. So it can be dangerous. Fifth one is called Stone Man syndrome. It's a connective tissue that turns into bone. I've actually known a man who had this. It's called FOP, and I hope I don't mess this up too much. It's fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, and it's based on the Latin, and it's also known as Stone Man syndrome. It's very rare, and the inside, the connective tissue of the body turns into bones. It's 1 in 2 million people get it, and it's caused by a genetic mutation. Condition usually starts from shoulders and neck, and it kind of makes its way down to the legs. A second bone will actually grow over the first one in a process known as HO, which stands for heterotopic ossification. So when people get arthritis and it calcifies, and they say calcification, there's like hardened, it's not quite bone, but it's like a hardened area, and very often those pieces will rub together and cause problems, and it's discomfort. Can be great because it's extremely unexpected and progressive. So just like regular arthritis is very uncomfortable, this is worse because it actually turns a second set into bone. And there's really nothing that they can do to reverse it. There's very little known about it. A friend of mine's father, unfortunately, had it, and more than half his body had started to convert when he passed away from it. It's just depending on where it actually thickens fast or more of, and what it could affect like near organs, and it unfortunately it took his life. The sixth one is Alice in Wonderland syndrome. So people can get very large body parts, for example, limbs, hands, feet, or even their head, and they can hallucinate and feel time pass slowly. They kind of gave it this name based on the eat drink part of Alice in Wonderland's journey, to go into the rabbit hole and then, of course, regrow to normal size. This is a neurological syndrome, and it's also known as Todd's syndrome. It usually presents with serious migraines, and they can distort a person's body image, including their own size and their perception of the size of their head, hands, and feet. Patients can also experience hallucinations, and just the idea that time is not necessarily linear, or that it's quick or too slow. And it's, we always joke about how Alice in Wonderland, like the Cheshire Cat and the Mad Hatter and all these seemingly hallucinogenic characters, and where did they come from? What were they doing when they wrote it? That's kind of the same idea. It's that not making sense and nonsensical way to perceive your reality from there, and it can be very scary. The seventh disease is Hutchinson's-Gilford progeria syndrome. So this is where a person ages very quickly. It is an extremely rare condition, and a person just goes through rapid change. Their appearance just begins in childhood like a normal person, but then they age rapidly. And it's very rare. It occurs in 1 in 4 million people. And there's more than 131 cases that have been reported in scientific literature globally since 1886. However, it is very rare. And I always think of the movie Jack with Robin Williams, where I think he's supposed to be in like second or third grade, but as he starts aging and they can't figure out what happened. And although I believe he was affected by Werner syndrome, which was slightly different, same kind of an idea. And he ages out, and eventually, of course, he passes away, just because his body can't keep up. The eighth one, can't count, is pica. My dog has pica. I don't care what anybody says. Crazy Murphy, who you may have seen, and heard me talk about, is definitely has pica. So pica is a disease where people will eat all sorts of non-food items. They might eat erasers. They might eat pencils. They might eat crayons. They might eat little cars. They might eat toys. They might eat paper. And people with pica they're compulsive about eating the items that don't have any kind of nutritional value. They're not tasty. They just like doing it. And unfortunately, it could cause major harm intestinally. So sometimes it's something harmless like ice and they just chew on it constantly. Or it could be toxic like chalk or pieces of metal, dried paint. There's stories of people eating their mattress or chairs. It occurs most often in children and pregnant women and people with intellectual disabilities. We don't really know, but it is said that the unusual cravings can be a sign that the body is trying to replenish low nutrient levels. Who knows? It's a very rare thing, and what they eat can hurt them because it's not meant to go in your digestive system. I joke about my dog, but I'm serious. Puppies chew, and after he was a puppy and sort of, they chew socks, they chew shoes, and of course you get them chew toys and things, but he's like 3 years old now and he's still chewing random things that he shouldn't be chewing. And sometimes he'll even eat them. I'm like, no. So we try and keep stuff away from him and give him a chew toy, but it can, obviously extend to pets just because they're in a biting, chewy phase. But with people, they actually actively go out to eat the thing, whatever it may be. Like I said, pencils or staples or anything like that. So definitely don't do that. The ninth condition that we are talking about is human werewolf syndrome. So people basically grow a ton of hair in odd spots that they wouldn't expect to have it. Hypertrichosis is the official name. It's, werewolf syndrome. And it's characterized by excessive hair growth pretty much anywhere on the body, but it can even grow across the face. It is very thick, and the person would kind of resemble a werewolf. It's very thick hair, and it can be all over. And a lot of illnesses that have been eradicated due to vaccines, and this condition's cause is unknown. We don't know where it comes from, but there's no existing cure or treatment to manage it by any way of any symptom. Like, it just kind of happens. And sometimes a baby is born with it, where they already have hair. Sometimes across the face is the most notable. It might start like thickening hair in a younger person in a different place, and then it just gets thicker and thicker, and it's more like a coat than it is like regular hair. So it's very difficult to, you could shave it, of course, but it can grow back, so it's difficult to manage. And the last one of our list of 10 here, just thought 10 was a nice number. Alkaptonuria. Hope I said that right. That is a unique buildup of chemicals called homogenistic acid in the body that causes tissue to turn dark. So it's also known as black urine disease. That just sounds horrible. And it's an inherited disorder, and it just results in a lot of buildup of this chemical acid in the body, and it stains the tissues. In addition, the condition can prevent the body from entirely breaking down amino acids. So certain amino acids, I believe it's phenylene and tyrosine, that are generally responsible for body pigmentation. So it kind of blocks them. And sadly, there's no treatment or cure for the condition yet. But that was a very unique one that I hadn't heard of. So there's some 10 unusual diseases that you may or may not have heard of, and I just thought I would educate you today a little bit about them, and I hope that they can find some cures for the ones that they don't have, and hopefully everybody can learn a little bit more than they knew prior to. If you like what you heard today, then check us out at eclecticcollectionpodcast.com or listen to us on your preferred platform. I'm Terry Tenaglia. Thanks for listening.